man is extremely influential in the development of American literature. Without him, we would not have a lot of the story types that we do today, and we would not have some of the sayings that we have today. So he's extremely important to our culture and how we have evolved as readers and writers.
He was one of the most influential writers of his time. He wrote many of the classics that we use today in teaching for literacy and teaching students who are coming to our country as second language learners.
Authors from the past have created our future of literature.
They have motivated the writers of future generations.
With all the authors of the generations that have come and gone,
they have influenced a certain author that is now a world-known novelist.
November 30th, 1835, this novelist was born.
He was born by the name of Samuel Clemens, but known as Mark Twain.
Clemens had a rough childhood, but Twain turned that life into something greater.
Mark Twain explored the world of literature, writing best-selling novels that are recognized today as masterpieces. Mark Twain impacted the world of literature by leaving future generations his classic novels that are read today by the youth.
Each author has their own story.
It begins with who they are.
It begins with a purpose.
More importantly, they must believe they can do it.
Mark Twain's literature began through his childhood.
Growing up, Samuel Clemens lived in a household of 9. He was born in Florida, Missouri, but at the age of 4, he and his family moved to Hannibal, Missouri.
But that all changed when his father passed away in 1847 of pneumonia.
That was when he took the responsibility as the man of the household and took the job as a typesetter in 1851 at age 11. This was only the beginning of his writing career.
At 18, he left his job as a typesetter to become a printer in New York City.
Yet, his childhood wasn't the only thing that made his writing come alive.
Authors have come and gone. They've left behind their legacy through the art of literature.
Authors such as Thomas Malory, Charles Dickens, and Robert Browning have written classic novels for us readers today.
Thomas Malory represents his legacy through his love for literature.
Thomas Malory influenced Mark Twain by leaving behind The Morte Day Author, a world-famous book.
Charles Dickens wrote wonderful classic stories that are told to be some of Mark Twain's favorite books aside from his own.
These included A Christmas Carol, Oliver Twist, and The Great Expectations.
Robert Browning was also another influence of Mark Twain.
He wrote Dramatis Personae, that is also to be told, a novel that Mark Twain enjoyed.
This is only the first part of Mark Twain that you will come to know.
While he was 20, he officially started to use Mark Twain as his pen name.
Mark Twain had a joy for traveling. In 1862, he and his brother, Orion, traveled to Nevada.
After living in Nevada for 2 years, his brother passed. Then he moved to California and published Jim Smiley and His Frog.
In 1866, Twain traveled to Hawaii as a reporter for the San Francisco's Alta California newspaper. Alta California wanted him to keep writing from the East.
When he arrived in New York City in 1867, he signed up for the steamship tour of Europe and the Holy Lands. There, he wrote more travel letters.
While on tour of Europe, he met a passenger by the name of Charles Langdon.
Yes, Olivia Langdon's brother.
Charles introduced the two fellow strangers. Love at first sight is what they called it.
With this meeting, they fell in love each day while they were together.
Eventually, they tied the knot and were married in February of 1870, 2 years after meeting.
When they got married, Olivia Langdon was 24 and Mark Twain was 34.
They began their lives in Buffalo, New York. There, he and his wife had their first son, Langdon, but 19 months later he died of diphtheria.
In 1871, they left New York and moved to Hartford, Connecticut.
There, his wife gave birth to 3 daughters, Susie, Clara, and Jean.
His daughter Susie died of meningitis in 1896.
The only child to live past her 20s was Clara, who lived to be 88.
On February 18, 1885, a year after Clara was born, Mark Twain published The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
Twain encountered many slaves in his time, which led to the publish of this book.
As a matter of fact, one of his dearest friends, Harriet Beecher Stowe, happened to be his neighbor growing up.
She wrote the famous novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Mark Twain had many losses in his life. With all of these losses, he became less humorous and lost his talent as a writer.
He had gone through another traumatic time in his life and had fallen behind in his writing when his wife passed away in 1904.
Throughout his legacy, he had experienced many deaths and setbacks, which made him fall into a dark place.
After the death of his wife and one of his daughters, Jean, He moved back to Redding, Connecticut in 1908.
Mark Twain had died of a heart attack in Redding, Connecticut on April 21st, 1910. This was the same year when Halley's Comet returned.
In 1835, Halley's Comet came as well as Mark Twain. I came in Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it. It will be the greatest disappointment of my life if I don't go out with Halley's Comet. The Almighty has said, no doubt. Now here are these two unaccountable freaks. They came in together, they must go out together.
Twain foretold his death a year before it happened.
He is now buried with his wife and children at the Woodlawn Cemetery in Elmira, New York.
This was the end of Mark Twain, but not the end of his literature.
Mark Twain exchanged his ideas by giving many generations novels they would love. By exchanging his ideas, he was able to show his significance through writing.
He based his books on topics such as slavery, religion, space, and he even wrote a few biographies.
With this in mind, Mark Twain was on the side for anti-slavery.
His world-selling novel, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, was based on the slave he met growing up.
Twain uses Jim, a main character and a slave, to demonstrate the humanity of slaves.
He believed that slavery was wrong.
There has been racial differences around for centuries.
Since 1619, slavery has been a problem. Even though the Constitution states that all men are created equal, many generations never seemed to get that until 1865 when it was abolished.
He impacted the lives of young writers by writing famous novels. This impacted them because Twain grew up living a hard life. Yet, he was one of the most successful writers.
Not only did he impact the lives of the youth, but he also accomplished many things.
Some of his major accomplishments were
The honorary Doctors of Letters degree from Yale University in 1901 and Oxford University in 1907.
he was also awarded the Master of Art degree from Yale, the Tony Award, and the Emmy Award.
He has written award-winning novels. These novels include The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, The Prince and the Pauper, The Innocents Abroad, and Eve's Diary.
Altogether, he has written a total of 28 books, along with numerous short stories, letters, and sketches.
The society we live in today remembers Mark Twain for his literature.
Speaking through literature helps to encourage young writers to continue their dream and write their hearts out.
After the death of Mark Twain, there are now schools named after him. Plus, he has the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor, named in honor after him.
This award has been awarded to people such as Eddie Murphy, Will Ferrell, Tina Fey, Ellen, and other role models of our generations.
The first Mark Twain Prize of Humor was awarded to Richard Pryor on October 20th, 1998.
In addition to having this award named in his honor, there's a national park in Missouri named after him.
This national park is named the Mark Twain National Forest.
Mark Twain has made a huge impact on our world today. But remember,
Authors are not born, they are made.